but he shouldn't have gotten more than that. I definitely don't think he should have gotten 10 or 15 years or anything more than the 50 months he got. I actually wrote the judge a letter recommending that he gets less than 5 years. So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's going to get the chance to go home and live his life.
So you actually wrote a letter to the judge?
Yeah, I wrote a letter, even though they didn't include it because of what I said in the letter. I definitely wrote a letter to the judge as a victim.
You have it on you?
Oh yeah, I did. I brought it. Yeah. Considering they didn't read it in court, right? I might as well read it for your platform. um, all right, let's start. So it says, Dear Judge Submarinian, I am writing to Your Honor as a victim and a witness in the case involving Mr. Sean Combs. My intention in this letter is to respectfully request that the court consider leniency during Mr. Combs' sentencing. I understand the gravity of the allegations and the importance of justice, and I hope to provide my perspective as someone who was directly involved in this matter. I cooperated with the prosecution for 18 months, providing truthful and detailed accounts of my experiences with Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura. I submitted evidence including airline receipts, boarding passes, and hotel information, which were used to strengthen the prosecution's case. I testified before a grand jury where an indictment was returned against Mr. Combs in March of 2025. I also interviewed to witnessing numerous instances of domestic violence involving Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura, as well as the toxic and volatile nature of their relationship. However, I must emphasize that while I do not condone Mr. Combs' conduct regarding domestic violence, I never witnessed Miss Ventura being forced into any sexual encounters. On the contrary, my personal experiences with her revealed a willing and active participant in these interactions. I shared this information with prosecution, but I believe it was disregarded in favor of a narrative that was more advantageous to their case. As a victim myself, I was trafficked across straight lines, contracted an STD, and faced significant emotional and physical harm during my involvement with Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura. My relationship with Miss Ventura was so extensive that I impregnated her, and despite terminating the pregnancy, she continued to contact, coerce, and sex traffic me for years afterwards. The trial revealed she had dozens of men to call. So why call Clayton Howard? Because she preferred me, she enjoyed me, and she chose me. Despite all this, my experiences were overlooked, and I felt silenced by the very system that is meant to protect victims. The male victims of this enterprise were denied justice. Those victims were not Cassandra. No, the true victims of this enterprise were denied justice. Excuse me. Those victims were not Cassandra and Jane Doe. They were the dozens of men these three, Mr. Combs, Miss Ventura, and Jane Doe, co-conspirators manipulated for years, seeking the gratification of their own perverse desires. Mr. Combs is not innocent and should be punished, but not based on the fabricated narratives that hide the truth of the matter to which he is to be imprisoned. That is not justice. I firmly believe in justice, due process, and despite being denied it often by the law enforcement, I strongly believe that justice should be served in every case. I do not seek to diminish the experiences of other victims. However, I also believe that the prosecution's approach in this case was flawed, as it failed to present the full truth and disregarded the complicity of other parties involved. Miss Ventura and Jane Doe were victims of domestic violence. That is 100% true. But sex trafficking, I beg to differ. I'm sorry, but unfortunately not. I was personally called by Miss Ventura for years, who would be intoxicated, making extremely graphic suggestions regarding the things she wanted sexually when I would arrive and present myself to her. She would get annoyed and even angry when Mr. Combs interrupted us while engaged. She would have sexual encounters with me when he told us to stop and wait until he returned off phone calls he took in other rooms. This would cause arguments and acts of domestic violence also. All of this I reported to the prosecutors. Mr. Combs has already faced significant consequences, and I do not believe he poses a threat to anyone at this stage. I must seek my own justice within the civil courts, as prosecutors have denied me that justice based on my ethnicity and my gender. And that was a problem in presenting the truth of matters. A criminal enterprise did exist. Mr. Combs was part of it, and he most certainly did control it through his influence and resources. But he did not do it alone. He had help, and that help was his personal staff and his girlfriends, who were Miss Ventura and Miss Jane Doe, for extended periods of times. They both testified to wishing to please their lover. Wanting to please Wanting to please takes making the decision, and making the decision means you have the freedom to do it. Miss Ventura preferred me. I know this. Mr. Combs was not a fan of mine in the beginning for years of our association. But over time, we gained a mutual respect through Miss Ventura's preference of me. I do not imply romance stated by stating this, but Miss Ventura did prefer me. She and I had the same birthday, which was August 26th, and she would call me for years to meet and have sexual encounters on our birthday. Based on my years of knowing Mr. Combs, I am confident he will not repeat the mistakes of the past. I respectfully ask the court to consider these factors and grant Mr. Combs leniency during his sentences. Thank you for taking the time to consider my perspective. I trust the court's wisdom and fairness in reaching a just decision. And I overnighted that to the judge and hoped that the judge would get it. And at least finally, my perspective might be introduced to the court, considering they tried to withhold it and they were fair to him. And I'm glad it seems like they was. He got 50 months. I'm satisfied with that for something.